I'll always tell it like it is, that's the bottom line. If you just living to exist, you on borrowed time. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. That's the bottom line, that's the bottom line, yeah, that's the bottom. That's the bottom line, that's the bottom. That's the bottom, that's the bottom. That's the bottom line, that's the bottom.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back at the bottom line, and I'm here with my good, dear friend, Gerry Cooney, who I met just a couple of years ago in New York at a charity event, and since then, I don't know, we fell in love instantly.
Yeah. Well, we know,
we have so much in common. We have so much in common. I never fought. I never got in trouble. I never had a drink. I never did any of those things, but somehow we still have so much in common. But I haven't read your book yet. Right? I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be like those guys on TV and tell you that, I read the book, and they just read a few excerpts. I haven't read the book yet. You were kind enough to send it to me. You did forget to sign it, which we will straighten that out later. But what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is I really would just like you to sort of take me through, sort of weave me through the book a little bit, right? A little bit about what it was like, what happened to you, Gerry Cooney, and what it's like now.
Well, it's really simple. It's a great ending. It's a good story. We all get knocked down in life. As a kid, I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters, and my father was a raging alcoholic. And he came home drunk every night, and some days he was happy, most days he wasn't. And he took it out on the kids and his wife, my mother. And I grew up hiding in the basement, and I didn't know how to express myself. Out of sight, out of mind, I couldn't get hurt. And I sat in the back of the classroom, and boxing was a way for me, what I found out was to help me to express my anger for what was going on at home. And then they put my picture in the paper when I was 16 on the back page of the Daily News almost every week when I fought. And I made it to the finals of the Golden Gloves in 1973, and I won the middleweight title. I knocked a guy out in the 3rd round. My brother also, my older brother, who I loved, who I got into boxing because of, he also went in the Golden Gloves, made it to the finals, and he fought some guy from the Virgin Islands who had a lot of fights, but in New York City, he had no fights, so he went into sub-novice, and my brother lost the decision, and he didn't stick with it, and I did. And I got to express myself. I got rid of the anger. I felt like somebody. And I liked how it made me feel. Now, did I like going up those 4 steps in front of 21,000 people in Madison Square Garden? No. I didn't think I belonged there. I didn't think I deserved it. But somehow I climbed up those 4 steps, and I think that was a higher power that got me in there, and I fought my ass off, and he saved me through the fight game. I work with a lot of kids today, different detention homes and orphanages, and they didn't have this. I go there and teach them boxing and talk about getting rid of your anger and about having options in life. They don't have any options, and so they think. And so boxing is a way to help express that and to maybe make you feel a little more confident to come out and ask the question, listen, can you get me help with this? And that's a great gift that boxing gave me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I talk to kids about all the time is finding a passion. Right? Whatever it is, if you can find a passion, it can help keep you out of trouble, obviously, right? That was my thing, was I wasn't able to find a passion, right? You talked about your dad and his alcoholism and his anger and unhappiness. I grew up the exact same way, right? And sat in the back of the class, did all the things you just talked about, but didn't find something that I could be passionate about. So instead, I took a left turn. When you took a right turn, I took a left turn. Right, and ended up in a whole different place. So
I
tell me a little bit more.
Too.
Yeah. Well, eventually, we ended up in the same place, but we took different roads to get there, right? And my road consisted of, homelessness, prison, et cetera, et cetera. Right. We were both suffering from the same thing, the same brokenness, the same sadness, the same lack of joy, right? And this bad wiring that we have, right? And we did, thank God, end up in the same place. Right? Today we end up here. We get to have this conversation. Same problem, same disease, same sort of upbringing.
Same life,
but,
same life. We're all the same. I found out I'm a little grain of sand, just one. I'm not all that. I'm a one grain of sand. Listen, I go to see the kids, and the kids want to be basketball players. They want to be baseball players. I tell them, that's fine. But if you can't make it, most likely you're not going to make it. You have to have something to fall back on. Stay in school. Ask them for help here, what you want to do. What do you feel like doing? Get some experience.
Right.
So try and move them along that way.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you know, for me, I found a little thing when I was a kid. I was a diver, a swimmer. I hung out at the Y, and I went to this competition and won a summer of a diving school with an Olympic diver at Boston University. But I was only probably about 11 years old, right? But I think what happened was I was already beyond that point. And I also feel like there was not really a lot of support. People weren't coming to watch me dive. My dad never went to anything I did, right? I get the feeling that he was a boxing fan. He pushed you into boxing, so he was there. He was living vicariously through you. I didn't have that, right? So, you know, it was at a certain point, I lost interest because nobody else took interest. And so I was getting high on the way to diving school. Right? I was looking for trouble on the way to diving school, right? I was going to this neighborhood. Boston University was like 1,000,000 miles away from the hood I grew up in, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about having boxing and having that, and it sounded like in the beginning it wasn't love with boxing, but when you started to get noticed, it started to become.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to get in the ring and fight with somebody. I mean,
sure.
I mean, you know, you signed to fight Larry Holmes. For 3 months, I'm training. All I'm thinking about is fighting Larry Holmes. Is that what I want to do with my life? No, you know, I mean, but it was my way. It was my avenue. It was my peaceful. Like my first drink was at 12 years old. And I got so sick that night drinking, but I remembered that 10 to 15 minutes when that big hold I carried around all my life went away.
Yep.
I felt funny, I fit in, people liked me, and that was the curse for me. That first time I drank, that happened to me, because I forgot about getting sick, but I remembered about the joy of it.
Right.
And that's what I tell people, that we all experience that, and people that are alcoholic, they're going to go with that. They're going to hold on to that.
Right.
And unless we get help. And you know, we need to get help.
So you're fighting. You had 31 professional fights?
31 professional fights.
31 professional fights, 28 wins. You knocked out 24 people.
Right.
Wow. So you had hands.
No, listen, listen. The night I knocked out Kenny Norton in 54 seconds in the first round, I could have beaten anybody that night. I was such in shape. I was taking care of myself. I was clean. I had nothing. I could have beat anybody in the world that night. But that was the night that I had the old high school girlfriend who got some powder stuff, and I drank more, and then I started to train and drinking and messing around with recreational drugs for the biggest fight of my life, when I really needed someone to grab me by the arm and say, "Come on, Cooney, this is important. Stick with this." Right. But I lost my way, and who knows? Maybe I'd be dead today had I won the title that night. But it happened the way it happened, and I survived it. I had a respectable outcome in the fight. I got stopped in the 13th round, and I was so many people. You can't go the distance, or this and that, and I was trying to go the distance that night instead of just fighting. But aside from that, I was drinking and not taking care of myself. Listen, if I got a race car and I don't change the oil and don't put the gas in, it's not going to run right. And that's what I found out later on. But while you're in it, you think you can get away with it. I can handle this.
And what about the people around you, right? The people that are, you know, managing your career, that are supposedly looking out for you, right? What are they saying about all this? Is it more important for them to keep sort of being able to eat off your hard work, then speak up and say, "Hey, listen, you're traveling down a road that there's no coming back from"?
You know, Jimmy, my two managers didn't like each other, so I always felt like I was in the middle, and I was sick and tired of it. And my trainer didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was pretty clean, hiding, I suppose. I don't know.
Right.
Although he did train me very hard for the Holmes fight, and as a matter of fact, some ways I think I was overtrained for the fight, because that was his way of making up for my not taking care of myself.
Sure.
But whatever the case is, listen, we all make mistakes. We get knocked down our backs. But we have to get up, dust off our pants, and move on. And we've been blessed to be able to do that. I have 31 and a half
Absolutely.
years. April 21st, 1988 was the last time I had a drink. So that's a miracle. And
Take me back, Gerry. Take me back to the end, right? So it's April of 1988, right? And where are you? What's going on in your life? What is it that makes you say, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this anymore. I got to do something about
well, it
this.
just stopped. I mean, I woke up one day in this beautiful house in East Hampton, my home out there, by myself. And I thought to myself, hungover, and said, what happened to you? What the hell's going on with you? And I quit that day and went about my day. The next day I woke up at 20 minutes to 11 feeling the same way. And I got scared at that moment. And it was the first time this is a crazy story to tell you. I cried out to God and said, please, God, help me. And the desire to drink went away that moment. And I turned on the television, and the weirdest thing was, it happened to be Alcohol Awareness Week in the Hamptons, I swear to you. And the television was on. George Benedict was telling the story about some drunk.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I identified with it so much. I called him, and I went down to see him.
Wow.
And that was the start for me. And I started going to meetings, and I talked about that one grain of sand. I did drink again after 5 months. Someone told me I would.
Yep.
And I told them they were crazy, and I went out for drinking for 2 more months. And it was the best thing that happened to me, because I realized this is bigger than me, and I need help, and I have to open myself up to looking at me. Irish people, I'm sure all people don't like looking at themselves.
Sure.
But I had to do it, and I made a commitment to do it. I said, I'm going to do this for 6 months. Everything they asked me to do, if it doesn't work, I'm out. And I got it.
And here it is 31 years
and I'm
later.
helping people every day. And I love my life. I got a great family who've never seen me drink. I got 3 great kids, a beautiful wife, and it's a miracle. Look, I'm here sitting with you. We were down in Wall Street. You see me in Wall Street for a lot of years. I love that because I'm close with all those people.
Yeah, and you can see, a lot of people. Like I've been sober for the same amount of time as you. I know we joke around, right? That my anniversary is in May, yours in April, same year, right?
It's not the same time, bro, my friend. It's not the same time.
Come on. I actually St. Patty's Day was actually my sobriety day.
Great.
But it's a story that I can't tell you here because it's a little graphic. But anyways, a lot of those years I was on the outside. Things looked great.
Right.
I had a nice home. I had a beautiful family. I also have 3 children who have never seen me drink. But to be honest with you, I think they certainly have seen me suffer from alcoholism, right? Because there have been times in the process where I've been willing to do the work and willing to work on the relationship with God and to grow spiritually. And then there were times where I thought I could just coast, right? Like everything's better than it used to be. Look at me, I look great. And when I did that, the people around me suffered. It wasn't until I made the commitment that I felt like, I don't know, maybe that people weren't being honest with me because they were all talking about how happy they were in this great relationship that they had with God. And I was like, why don't I have that? What are they talking about? I'm doing what they're doing, or at least I thought I was doing what they were doing. But I wasn't, and I wasn't putting the effort in to have that spiritual connection. And I know before we got started, we talked a little bit about spirituality and religion. And I know that you were raised Catholic and that you're still a very practicing Catholic, as am I. Tell me a little bit about that part of your life and how it plays into your recovery.
All right, I want to tell you, before I do that, you talked about as long as I look good. When I was a kid, I remember I had my hair combed. I had these penny loafers that the string was out. So I took my mother's sewing string and I put them through the holes because I had to go to the city and I wanted to wear those shoes because I looked good.
Sure.
And when I got to the city, the string broke. And I had to walk around holding my thing all day. You know, my father was slap me around, and that was my deal. As long as I look good, and the day I look good, I feel great, my penny loafers go out and the string rips out and I'll get screwed.
I want to just jump in and just say that, you know, for me, it was other people's opinions of me was always so much more important than my own opinion of me. My opinion of me was low.
Right.
That was it, right? But if I could create a reason for somebody to like me, I was such a people pleaser. And you talk about wanting to look good for other people, right? So that they'll like us, so they'll accept us. It's such a sad way to live.
Jimmy, listen, I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters, and I became the athlete. I became the guy. And everywhere my brothers and sisters went, they didn't say, hey, Tommy, hey, Michael, hey, Stevie, hey, Eileen, how you doing? They said, how's Gerry? How's Gerry? How's Gerry? And then growing up in the household that we grew up in, they didn't want to hear that anymore.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And so I had to combat that as well. That wasn't my fault, but I felt guilty for it. Sure. And that was issues that we had to work through in our lives. And so I don't know if that answers your question. You know, it's, listen, life hands us crazy stuff, and we have to work through it. And without God, for me, you know, when I'm in my head, I'm talking to a crazy person. When I pray it away, I'm in the right place, and I'm right where I want to be. I want to help people every day, all day long. I'm not as upset. I love my wife more. I'm not looking to fight with anybody. And so, listen, this is what we got. I'm very blessed to have been who I am, where I've gone, and what I'm doing now. Listen, I told you the story, Jimmy. We're on TV right now, but I got that radio face. No more TV, just a radio face. And I'm on Sirius XM every Monday, every Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. on channel 153, talking about what I love, boxing. How do you beat that?
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
It's a
gift.
gift.
Know, the gift of recovery, right? It's a gift that keeps giving, right? As long as we put the effort,
as long as we keep working it,
right? You got to work it. So many times I would do the work, and then get to what I would consider the desired shore of faith, right? Like, and I'd look around and go, yeah, what a great job I've done. And as soon as I start trying to give myself credit for any of it, it's over.
God
you know?
says, oh, yes, my son? Well, here's the story.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the story. The guy's in the boat with God, and God was steering, and the guy was rowing. God was steering, the guy was rowing. And the guy got tired, said, hey, God, can I steer? And God said, yes, you can, my son, but I don't row. We have to do the work.
We have to do the work.
It's ongoing. And I feel very sad because I run into a lot of people who can't get that. They don't want to look. Right. They avoid it. Right. And they wind up going back out again. And that's just worse than death.
You know, the thing about, we end up, so, you know, we go through this life process, right, of, you know, you were very successful, but you look around at the people you grew up with, right, and they're doctors, lawyers, whatever they are, construction workers, they're happy people, they're living their lives, and for me, it was always about, I'm not where I should have been because I wasted all this time.
Some way we're going to have that all our lives unless we keep treating it.
Right. But now today, I thank God.
Well, yeah, every day.
For my alcoholism. I thank God for the pain and the suffering because it beat me into a state of reasonableness. Right. It beat me into a state of being willing to grow, to do the work to grow, right? So now I don't need to look around to see other people and where they're at and what they're doing. I'm happy, really, for the first time, right where my feet are.
Yeah, and I'm happy for them too. And I'm able to be not resentful. I'm happy for those people too.
And to be of service, right? So you know, when you end up, you get sober, and there's an attractiveness to that, right? People look at you, they see you, and you immediately become the resident expert on all things addiction, right? So if somebody's having a problem because of the way we carry ourselves, the way we are so service-oriented, people say, oh, man, my son or my wife or my brother's having a problem. I know who I got to call, right? I got to call Gerry. I got to call Jimmy. I got to call. And I've had relatives that I barely know reach out to me. I've had relatives that I've done really bad things to in my lifetime, that I might have taken something that belonged to them or went to a party at their house and caused such a ruckus that the cops came and shut the thing down or whatever. But now they look at me a very different way.
In time, that happens.
Yeah, in time. Yeah, man. I mean, a day at a time. The one thing that I can say is, so in 31 years, the most important thing I've learned is, what am I doing today?
Right.
It's all about today. It's all about my spiritual condition today. I can't coast. I talked about brushing off my shoulders, right? And trying to live off yesterday's sobriety, right? I can't afford to do that. And, the other thing for me was that, I guess I was grateful when I first came to start to go to meetings and stuff. I was in state prison, and I was given permission to create my own conception of God, right? Which now, when I think about it, is the craziest thing in the world, right? For me, if I thought today I'm going to create my own conception of God, it would be a nightmare for me, because I would create, the God I would create would be a pool hustler, right? I was blessed to be able to be led back to the faith of my childhood, to the God of my childhood, to the God that I believed in as a little boy, although I felt very distant, right? I felt, I was brought up like you were brought up. God's going to get you.
Right.
You're going to go to hell. You're going to, like, all these things, when I wasn't really introduced to an all-loving, all-caring God, right? Nobody ever told me that, it sat down and explained to me that he died for me. He gave it all up for me.
Who forgives us once. It doesn't come back again. We relive it over and over again. But when we ask for forgiveness, it's forgiven. He's forgotten about it.
Absolutely. So, listen, I know that you generally don't like to talk about all the good things that you do for other people, right? Because you're a humble guy, and that's one of the things that's so attractive about you to me. But I know you do a lot with kids, and I'd love to talk a little bit about that, right? Because it's kind of how we met, right? We met at a charity event. We met in service to others, right? Tell me a little bit more about the stuff that you're doing with kids and how it impacts you.
I mean, sometimes it can be a little selfish on my part, because when I was a kid, I didn't have that. So today, when I get to see a kid smile, or, like my wife, we have 10 kids we get presents for every year.
Right.
To see the smile, to make them feel at ease, to make them teach them through boxing, make them comfortable with becoming better, what they do, what I'm teaching them.
Right.
There's nothing to put on that. And it's not like I'm doing anything special. We're supposed to do that where I come from. Like I didn't have somebody to grab me by the arm. I want the opportunity sometime in my life to grab a fighter and say, okay, kid, now this is important. Stick with me for a while. Let's take it to the top. I didn't have that. And I have accepted that, and I'm finally feeling way better about who I was as a fighter. I was better than I give myself credit for, because of my not taking care of myself. But I didn't have the right teacher. I didn't have that opportunity. I want to be the teacher for that person, to give them the place where they got to go. It's a great feeling. It's the greatest thing in the world. And plus, not just that, but we get to hang around with guys like you and all the different celebrities, and we tell stories, and we catch up with what's going on in the past, what it was like, and share that with other people. I got great stories.
Right.
I mean, I was with Tony Danza with you the other day. I mean, he used to come to my gym. Someone came along, saw him, and said, "Come on, let's get out of here." And he came on Taxi.
Huge star,
Huge star.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. And so those kinds of things. I mean, all the baseball players, the football players I meet. I was just with Marty Lyons yesterday at a New York City Police Department luncheon, Christmas luncheon. 700, 800 people. And I got to listen to some of Marty Lyons' story I had never heard before. And I know him all my life. So it's a win-win situation. And
we met at the CIBC Miracle Day. Which is on the trading floor, which is a fantastic event, and we've been blessed to be a part of it now for about 5 years. But we had 45 celebrities come out. These are all people just giving of their time, all there representing a charity. But on the Tuesday night before the event, I got to spend some time with your friend Larry Holmes and his wife Diane.
Don't bring him up. Don't bring him up, will you? Don't bring his name up.
Let me just tell you something. I mentioned your name and said that you were my friend, right? You definitely have a bunch of missed calls from Larry that night because he just pulled up. He goes, I'm going to see you. He's my brother. I'm going to call him right now and see if you really know him. And he was really playing around with me.
And friends to me.
But what a wonderful man. What a wonderful story he has. What a wonderful marriage he has. And buddy, I got to tell you, man, it's wonderful for us to live these great lives.